When it comes to family dynamics, the least studied dynamic within the family structure is that of siblings. In my award-winning book, Inner Field Trip, one of the chapters is on sibling dynamics. And I focus in on two actresses from the golden age of film, Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine. They were biological sisters who had an intense rivalry within Hollywood at the time. That their sibling rivalry came into focus when Fontaine ignored de Havilland's outstretched hand when the former went on stage to accept the Oscar for Best Actress in 1941. In her autobiography, Fontaine says that she did not see her sister's hand as she was frozen with shock at winning. Now, despite their conflict that lasted decades, when Fontaine died in 2013, de Havilland said that she was saddened by her sister's death. Such is the dynamics of sibling relationships. And as a licensed therapist, I do see individuals in session who come in with a problem, an issue. And despite exploring several different angles from session to session, I often ask, well, what about your siblings? And then I realize that that is the source of the conflict or the issue that has brought them into therapy. There's not a lot of research done on sibling dynamics, and yet your siblings will be the first person that you will form a platonic, non-romantic relationship with someone in your generational cohort. And the fact remains is that if you and your siblings are born close together, they will also form the longest familial relationship that you will have in your lifetime. And despite that, not all sibling relationships are positive. Some are steeped in competition, and unfortunately for some, siblings become their first bullies and abusers. Now, before continuing, I want to address two things. One is that the definition of siblings is inclusive in my eyes. You can have biological siblings, and this is where two or more people have one or both parents as a common ancestor. Siblings can also be foster, chosen, bonus, step, adopted, donor, in-laws, or cousins of similar ages who are raised together. And so I acknowledge all these configurations because of the changing way that families look today. The other thing I want to address is if you are an only child, you may think that this does not apply to you. But only children often have a romanticized view of what sibling relationships should be. I often hear from individuals who were an only child who say, wow, if I only had a sister, or if I only had a brother, not knowing that even if you did have a sibling, it doesn't mean that it's going to be positive. When it comes to sibling relationships, it's so critical that we examine the ways in which our siblings showed up in our lives. In some cases, some parented their younger siblings. Often, the parenting role will fall on the eldest sibling, the most responsible sibling, or even the only girl in the family. And class issues and a lack of extended family support due to relocation, estrangement, illness, or death are often factors which can create parentification within a family. And when you are assigned adult duties at a young age, this can contribute to a lifetime of people-pleasing. And so that's why it's important to acknowledge if this has happened to you. I mentioned earlier that sometimes siblings can be a source of abuse and bullying, and this can happen in many families. I remember watching a documentary of Christian Laettner, who was a standout in the 90s on the Duke Blue Devils basketball team, winning many national championships. In his documentary, he cited that he and his brother would always compete against each other. In fact, the way that Laettner described the interaction sounded quite abusive, if you ask me. And so while Christian Laettner looked back and saw that time as a period that helped him to grow emotionally and physically, as a licensed therapist watching that documentary, I couldn't help but think that Laettner might have been subjected to his older brother's abuses. I often hear from members within my membership community called the Inner Field Trip Base Camp who share that a sibling may be narcissist or might be an addict, and it's important for them to maintain their distance away from that particular sibling. And so it's important that you put your safety above all else. So ultimately, the way that you interact with your siblings can define how you'll interact with your siblings in the global community. And there are individuals in other places around the world who may need attention to a particular plight that they are experiencing. Sometimes people act with anger and dismissal, stating that their problems are more important than, say, someone going through a particular issue such as genocide or war in a country far, far away. Chances are, if resentment was present in your relationship with your siblings, this could explain the pangs of jealousy you may feel when one of your sibs in the human race needs more attention than you. This is part of a scarcity mentality that you may have suffered as a child, where if one person's needs were attended to, it meant that your own were not met. One action you can take is to get a copy of the multi-award-winning book, Inner Field Trip. It contains journaling and doodling prompts on this topic and many others. This book is based on 7 years of research and helps you to meet the shadowy parts of your innermost trail with compassion, creativity, and curiosity. Now, there are some who have gone through the book and have said to me, Lisa, I started going through the chapters, but I kind of lost my way. And quite frankly, there are some people who need to go on this quest in community with others. That's where you can join us in community in the Inner Field Trip Base Camp. There we have a special area called the Group Grotto, our cozy little spot within the online membership community where we go through the prompts, both ones outlined in the book and brand new ones that I'm testing out for a future volume of the Inner Field Trip book. Within the Group Grotto, it allows you to share your discoveries and to be celebrated by others that are going on the same quest as you are. You can always go to the Inner Field Trip website and click on Become a Member in order to read more information on how to start your membership within the Inner Field Trip Base Camp. As someone that has guided people through their inner field trips since 2015, I know that there's a very small percentage of folks who may struggle with the memories that come up after going through the journaling prompts, whether on their own using the multi-award-winning book or within community in the Inner Field Trip Base Camp. So as a licensed therapist, I suggest that you seek out the support of a mental health professional. They can help you to identify the unhelpful cognitions and apply interventions that can help you to recover and get healthy emotionally. Whatever you do, just remember that sibling dynamics is an important part of addressing so that you can heal. Trek bravely.